Hi, and welcome to Clinical Perspectives. I'm your host, Jesse Claff. On this podcast, we talk with industry leaders and innovators who are navigating today's market challenges on topics that are newsworthy, relevant, and on the minds of business owners today. On this episode, we'll be discussing how smaller medical device companies are competing against industry giants. Today, I'm joined by Tony Troncale, president of Joimax, a leader in the endoscopic, minimally invasive spine surgery, known for deep expertise, precision, and strong commitment in everything they do. Tony, thanks for being here.
Hi, Jesse. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. So tell me, how'd you get into the medical industry? Was it always the plan?
Actually, I came via clinical. I actually was a physician assistant in my prior life, practicing orthopedics, and was introduced to industry through some of our sales reps and product managers that we would interact with. And that ultimately led me over to this side about 25 years ago.
Amazing. And how'd you find yourself in the role of a president?
Well, it's been a long road. It's been a fun one. I've had just a few pivots in my career through different companies, but ultimately went from a clinical role coming out of being a PA to then getting an MBA and moving into sales. And then from there, it was really going into the leadership track, sales leadership, marketing leadership, and then ultimately into this role as general manager and then now president.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So, what's your end goal here? Obviously, you're not planning on working forever. Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 3 years?
Yeah, in 3 years, I'd like to see that we as Joimax have really continued to expand the market, that this procedure or procedural solution has really become a mainstay. We're pleased that we're in a large number of academic centers in the US, so the next generation of young surgeons are learning this ultra minimally invasive procedure, and that this really becomes the gold standard for spinal decompressions and really a first choice where fusion may be a later option, but fusion not being the first choice.
That's pretty interesting. So tell me a little bit more about Joimax here.
Sure. Yeah. Joimax was founded about 25 years ago in Karlsruhe, Germany. And it was at that point, spinal endoscopy was almost really not even a concept. There were a couple surgeons, one particularly in the US, one particularly in Germany, that were kind of innovating in this space. And our founder, Wolfgang Rees, partnered up with the surgeon in Germany and established Joimax. And really from there, it was proof of concept. It was how to scale an educational platform so that it became reproducible. So we could, because many viewed this as challenging to learn. But ultimately, as technology got better, imaging quality got better, the tools got better, we were able to establish a training paradigm that now is utilized worldwide to train the next generation of surgeons. And at this stage, we're in 60 countries and, continue to grow.
About the story right there.
Yeah,
So
it's been
I'm
a good
interested
run.
here. Joimax, like you say, has been going for 25 years and now is in 60 countries. How did Joimax get to its state it's in right now? Because medical companies, it's a very difficult barrier to break into these
Sure.
large billion-dollar companies.
Yeah, so I've worked for my prior two companies were the traditional billion-dollar companies. And what we have here at Joimax is we're basically a family-run, essentially family-owned business. And because of that, we didn't take a large outside capital like you would typically traditionally see in a US company. In my prior life, I was with K2M, which was a small startup, and then did take capital increase, ownership increase, ultimately then went public, and then was snatched up by Stryker in a over $1 billion acquisition. So then I became part of the big industry $1 billion companies, and that's the traditional path we see with an American spinal device company. In Europe, it's a little different. In particularly, Joimax wanted to keep it kind of tight and keep it close. So we've from an American perspective, it might be, wow, well, why haven't they done more? But from a European perspective and from the perspective of endoscopy, we wanted to take this slow. We felt like we were establishing and building a new market space and wanted to be cautious in that, needed, like I said earlier, proof of concept from education. And so we've been just steady and slow, steady growth. And then similarly, our competitors at the time, they also were very kind of similar paths, small, mostly family run, and also grew at a kind of a consistent but smaller pace. And so that's why we're at this kind of point now where now some of the big industry giants are starting to see that this is an attractive space to be.
So what is the vision for Joimax Where do you guys see it going?
Yeah. So what we'd ultimately like is we have, for example, we have a fusion line. So we have implants and rods and cages, but we don't promote those. I mean, they're FDA cleared in the US. I have one customer that uses it, but we don't put our time and effort into that because there are, say, 200 other companies focusing on this space. So it's a segment of the business that we don't really focus on. However, we know a number of our customers, experienced customers doing endoscopy, are now doing endoscopic assisted fusion. And so they need tools and solutions for that. So we have something that will be coming out probably next year that will fit into that space. And that's where the advisors we talk to, our surgeon customers, say they see that as the next evolution is doing fusion surgery, endoscopic assisted. And so we're going to shift more of our energy and resources into that as that becomes the next kind of future iteration. A lot of this too looks like it's that story where in the past, it was open surgery, open fusion. And then when I started in the industry, that was shifting into tubular surgery, tubular assisted fusion. Now we're at that next kind of evolutionary jump here.
It's pretty interesting. So, how are you guys planning to achieve these goals?
Yeah. So you asked about kind of the 3-year vision. I think over the next 3 years, I mean, we're realistic enough to know that we can't do this completely on our own. We have the people, the right people, we have the right processes and all those things to do it. But we would like to kind of get on that faster trajectory and be able to achieve those goals. And so I would not be surprised if we end up with a partner of some sort, whether that's a private equity partner, whether that's an industry partner, but someone that would allow us to, especially on the fusion side, because that's not our core competence, the fusion piece of business. So someone that could work with us on that and helping to grow endoscopy and endoscopic assisted fusion into the future. So I suspect over the next 3 years, we will find a partner of some sort that will allow us to do those things, bring additional resources to the table as well.
Okay. Could you give me an example of what a perfect partnership would look like in your mind?
Perfect partnership in my mind, I mean, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for, my boss, our CEO, is someone that would allow us to continue to do the things we think we're doing well. So that's education, product innovation, as well as the clinical support that we provide, which is by far the leader in the space. So someone that would allow us to do those things, but that would come with us to bring resources in personnel. So maybe a larger sales force so we'd have greater reach to potential customers out there. Someone that would have the engine and interest in what is next, right? I mean, that's the part too, is, I talk about endoscopic assisted fusion, but there's so many other areas of that are potential innovations. Can you tackle more complex pathologies with endoscopic, like tumor treatment? Can you do this in a less morbid fashion? So there's so many avenues that, we are a little right now a little narrowed on what we can do. But if we had someone that had the breadth and interest and also the vision that in together we could really tackle more challenging pathologies in a less invasive fashion.
Shifting gears a little bit here. One thing out of your company, if there is one, of course, is there anything that is really holding you guys back from achieving that goal, at least in the short term?
So I wouldn't say there's anything that a company is holding us back from doing. What I would say though is there has been a large market entrant into this space. They came in about 2 years ago, but they're a sports medicine company, a very well respected sports medicine company, a multi-billion-dollar company. And frankly, when I was practicing as a PA, actually I used a lot of their instrumentation in surgery when we would do knee arthroscopy, ACL and PCL reconstructions, et cetera. So I'm very familiar with them, and they're a wonderful sports medicine company, but they're not a spine company. And so they've entered the space, and I think that's a testament to what we've done. I think it validates the market that they've entered spine through spinal endoscopy. So for us, it's really validation that we've been doing the right things and that there is a future in spinal endoscopy. It's not just us and our two other small competitors saying it. It's now a multi-billion-dollar company seeing this and saying that I believe we're doing the right things. But it certainly brings challenges, but it also brings opportunities as well.
So, since these big shots have entered the scene, what are you guys doing to, I guess, hold your stake of the market?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Great question. That's the exact question we asked ourselves. All right, how do we respond to this? What do we do? And, at first it was a little overwhelming because a number of the surgeons that we're close to because they're so fond and just simply wanting to teach. They have also been teaching for the other company, which again completely understand because we do want to raise the market. And as we learned, they were going to put a lot of resources, a lot of money into this space. Again, it validates what we've been doing, but it also then we started digging a little deeper and just thinking a little more. And where are our strengths? Where are their strengths? Where are our weaknesses? Where are theirs? And really kind of did almost the traditional, kind of MBA SWOT analysis thing and looking at, opportunities and threats and trying to understand. And one of the just, I think the light bulb moments was, we don't need to beat them because I think that's unrealistic, but we need to be able to effectively compete against them. There's 5,000 surgeons or so, spine surgeons in the US, which is a huge number. And we're just scratching the surface. And even the big player that's in, again, even with their resource, they're only going to reach a certain number of those. And frankly, we all want to reach all of them. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for both companies. Frankly, all the companies that are in this space, there's more than enough opportunity. Frankly, we can't pursue all the leads that we have in as timely a manner as I would like. So I believe it's opening new opportunities for us. Yes, there are times we're competing for the same account head to head, and then we need to think about how we're going to respond, say, to the same RFP. But in general, there's so many opportunities out there that it really has raised awareness in the space. I mean, almost that concept of raising the boats, right? I mean, they really are raising just the awareness around endoscopic spine as a whole.
You said something that caught my interest. You'd like to go after leads a bit quicker, a bit better. What's your current sales process look like?
Yeah, sure. So here's a funny anecdote. When I started with Joimax about 5 years ago, I remember my boss saying that we received leads through the website. And I said, no, of course not. No one receives leads through the website, the contact us thing. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks into into the new job, we get a lead coming in, or quote unquote lead coming in through the contact us. And I took it. I was like, let me follow up and see what. And lo and behold, it's a surgeon that, again, because we only have so many people in the field, that had fallen through the cracks as someone that trained at a program that used Joimax. And that ultimately, within about 3 or 4 months, ended up becoming a new user, which shocked me. And so, so we do receive a lot of inbound leads that way. But it's also the network, right? We're in almost 40 academic centers across the country. So there are a lot of residents and fellows that are exposed to our technology. And so we pursue everything we get, but you kind of have to follow those ones that are hot. And so the ones that are maybe cooling down a little bit, or there's a little bit of hesitation, maybe to introduce us to the hospital executives, we have to pursue the ones that are moving forward. You had asked about kind of our approach. Really, we follow a very similar methodology to kind of the early days of like Intuitive, for example. Everyone knows of Intuitive. Our head of sales was a former early employee of Intuitive. And so we follow a capital sales methodology that is fairly structured with clinical validation to make sure that we know the surgeon has interest, that they see where this would fit in their practice, that they can identify, how they would utilize this, and then that they're willing to promote this and to introduce us to executives at the hospital. And then we move to executive validation, which is really the capital procurement process with the hospital. So we follow a fairly structured methodology that has served us well.
So the sales process seems pretty much robust, and you guys do get a fair amount of inbound leads. What are you doing outbound wise?
Yeah, so that's where it's kind of interesting. Joimax historically has been not been a big marketing company, and so we've actually upped that a little bit this year. We brought in a, a, a new individual to lead our marketing efforts, who I worked with at K2M and Stryker. He just does a wonderful job, and so we've just tried to really modernize who we are. I mean, looking like an actual modern spine company, but also being more prolific on LinkedIn and working with our surgeon partners to get stories out there. Right, so much of it is patient driven these days too. That making sure we get these positive stories of the patients that are impacted through endoscopy, and then we attend some of the shows. Those, of course, are, I think, not as maybe beneficial across the board as they had been in the past, but I think they're still important to be there, even if you're networking with your existing customers and spending time with them, or your faculty in that. And then it's just really, it's back to the basics. We do a lot of cold calling when appropriate, if we have them, because some markets are hotter than others in the country. And so we make sure that those areas that maybe aren't as inbound traffic that we reach out, and we've got people, they'll go bang on the door, they'll knock on the door, and because a lot of it is just outreach. There's surgeons that either haven't heard about it, which at this point is a little unlikely, but there may be that hesitancy. Can I do this? Which any spine surgeon has the skills to do this. And we have, again, a robust education platform and program to get them there. And then third, will my hospital bring this equipment in? And there's so many different ways to bring in equipment. It used to be you just had to buy equipment in kind of the past. We've now, again, modernized, and we have lots of different models to get equipment in. So it's really just going back to the basics.
So you spoke a little bit about cold calling. What other simple marketing tactics have you guys attempted, and have they worked well? If not, why not?
Yeah, again, this is an area that we don't do advertising, so that's not an area that we've tackled. Really, a lot of it is in relation to our academic centers. We have resident fellows programs that we offer all throughout the year for senior level residents and fellows, and even kind of mid level residents if they have a strong interest in spine and they see that they're going to pursue that they want to incorporate endoscopy when they eventually practice. So we engage with the young surgeons quite a bit. That's one of probably our biggest avenues is engaging with these young surgeons from a fairly early point in their careers. And then, working again with our partners to get them onto papers, onto research projects, things where they can make a name for themselves, but also really dig deep into spinal endoscopy and make that a home for them.
So what does the engagement process with these young students look like?
Yeah, so there's kind of two paths. So the first is on the local level. So we have our local either clinical education managers or our local sales representative get to know the local team, right? Who are the surgeons that are practicing with our faculty member at that academic center. Get to know them, make sure that they're into one of our educational programs. We bring them out to our U.S. office in Southern California for the workshop training, and then continue to provide them opportunities to grow their skill set over the years of their training. And then on the other side, we make sure that they get to know the leadership. It's so that we identify opportunities elsewhere. Our headquarters are in Germany. There's a promising young surgeon and wants to get advanced training. I'll give you one example. We had a surgeon out of the Midwest who graduated from our prominent MIS neurosurgery program, and we helped connect the dots so that they could come do additional endoscopic focused training outside of their residency with one of the champions in Germany, one of the prolific endoscopic surgeons there. Went did his mini fellowship there and came back, and then we worked to get equipment into his program, and now he's off to the races. So those are the kind of things that we like to do when appropriate.
Well, Tony, what one last piece of advice would you like to give our listeners?
Yeah, I think the especially relevant to this conversation is, when you're in a small company, sometimes it can feel like things aren't going fast enough. But what I've realized is, again, what I try to tell my team is it's a marathon, not a sprint. If you don't have the big capital backing, like a big private equity, there's some benefits to that. And so, you just need to be patient, but also persistent, and to face those challenges that get thrown your way. But there's usually opportunities within those challenges. And, that's what excites me to keep doing this each day and looking forward to the future.
Well, that was great. And lastly, before we hop off here, where can our listeners find you if they do want to reach out?
Yeah, they can reach me through LinkedIn. My profile is on there with contact information. So yeah, please reach out if you have any questions about spinal endoscopy, about Joimax, or anything professionally that I can offer assistance to. Be happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you, Jesse.
That was really fun.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you for
fun.
taking the time to join me on this.